Hello.
How you doing, Dan?
I'm good. What's your name?
Paul Williams.
So, Paul, give me a bit of an introduction to yourself. Very short one. What's your resume?
My resume. See, I'm a former vice president of the United States Handball Association. I'm the founder of the Inner City Handball Association, which is a 32-year-old nonprofit that specializes in youth handball. And I'm the current president of I'm actually the chairperson for Elite Handball at the New York Athletic Club.
Nice. So, take me to the very beginning of your handball career. How did you get into it?
Oh, I got into it because my brother played handball. And because he was a pretty good handball player, but also he was my older brother. He had to babysit me, so he had to drag me around everywhere he went. And so in doing that, he would throw me in a corner with a ball while he played ball with his friends. And eventually I just wanted to be better than him and beat him.
And did you?
Eventually I did. It took me till I was about maybe 18. And then I started beating him. And as soon as I almost beat him, he stopped and went to paddleball.
And was this one wall or four wall?
This was Onewall. This is Onewall handball with the pink ball in those days. And I played extensively, I guess, between the ages of 10 and 16. And then I took up four wall.
Okay. And what made you take up four wall?
Because a member of Brooklyn Union Temple who saw me play on the handball courts in Bed-Stuy and thought I was pretty good. He thought maybe I should benefit if I went to club handball instead of just street handball. So he sponsored me for 2 years at Union Temple. And from there I got to meet all the top four players, in the country that played there, like Tom Natale, Andy Scola brothers. I met Lou Russo, I met Jimmy Jacobs. I met a lot of legends in handball, and I just continued on playing.
Yeah. And so you're in the Hall of Fame. What made you get into the Hall of Fame?
I guess they said I was pretty good. Yeah, but I'm primary. It's funny because you only can be in the Hall of Fame. I'm in the National Hall of Fame and the New York State Hall of Fame. In New York State Hall of Fame, I'm a player as a contributor. In the National Hall of Fame, I'm only a contributor because you only could be in there for one thing. So because of my years of finding the Inner City Handball Association and running junior tournaments for 30 years, they felt that I earned it. I remember they told me at first when I did it for 10 years and I thought that, oh yeah, I can get into the Hall of Fame. They said, no way. I said 10 years is nothing. They said you have to at least be in there for like 15.
Yeah.
And then when I got to 25 years, I was like, wait a minute. I think I guess, and they put me in.
Fair enough. And tell me about the Inner City Handball Association. How did that come about?
Well, because I was sponsored as a young person, and I ended up getting exposure to four-wall handball and traveling around the country playing handball, getting me out the streets of Bed-Stuy. When I became old enough and in my own profession, I decided instead of doing it for one or two kids like my mentor did to me, I would end up doing it for hundreds of kids. And, it started out with only 4 kids, which they were the top, and they're still playing handball now. Joe Kaplan, Kendall Lewis, Jai Ragu, and the late Jason Morgan. And, after they showed their successes in handball, then I decided to keep on running it more and more, and we got more young people to play. And then we started a world team. I became president of the World Handball Council, actually. And that was my next stepping stone in the United States Handball Association, was to go to the World Council and to try and bring one-wall handball into the World Championships, because that was only four-wall. And so by doing exhibitions in Bray with my young group from New York, we were able to show that the New York handball players are competitive. And we went to the Worlds, all of us won something. And from that point on, since 1993, we made sure we went to the Worlds every 3 years. We went to like 8 Worlds, and we had 10 teams that actually competed. So that was really good, getting one wall into the Worlds, which now is gravitated to wall ball. They changed the name. And it's great to see some of the elite players that's in your tour play and compete, and also to see some of the young people that were in my group compete, in the Worlds as well as the wall ball tournaments.
What have been some of the challenges with Inner City Handball?
Funding, primarily. In the beginning, I funded it myself for the first 5 years. Probably lost a lot of money. Lost a lot of family members, So I was married when I started, but That was the biggest challenge. In the earlier days, we had a lot of players that would volunteer. So now that's a bigger challenge now. In the past, we had a lot of players that were excited and they wanted to volunteer to help to make sure this was successful. Now, and rightly so, people's times are precious and people are looking to get paid for a lot of work. There are still a lot of volunteers, but everyone has a job, everyone has family, everybody has life circumstances they have to deal with. So right now we're trying to put together a good team, core team of people to be able to run tournaments, to be able to run clinics, to be able to go another 32 years or more.
Yeah. Has inner city handball changed anyone's life trajectory, do you think? Do you think some people it helped them?
I think so.
Way?
I mean, a lot of young people never left their neighborhood. Just like me, until I got involved with, Onewall, I never left my neighborhood. Joe Kaplan, who still plays in national tournaments, he's in the Hall of Fame. Him and probably a core group of maybe 30, 40 kids. I get kids all the time. I call them kids because I'm old. But when I met them, they were like 12 and 15. And so I have young people that come to me and they'll take me to lunch, for my business and stuff. And they say, thank you for my childhood. You made it better than it would have been without you. And I was, that was shocking to hear that from young men and young women. They enjoyed the sport. Instead of just playing the street game, where in the neighborhoods it could be a little tough, but being able to get out and go to another country. I mean, we've gone to Wales, we've gone to Ireland, Spain, Italy, all the places that other people would dream of. And you go there and you play handball and you're treated like a rock star. You get off the plane and you would think you were a top NBA player making millions. You go to every country and they treat you so well because you're a handball player. And when you get that experience and a young person gets that experience, then it's like, wow, I love this game even more. And it gives them an opportunity to grow. Because it's not just playing ball in the street. You have to work a living because we don't have pro contracts that, that we can say, okay, I'm going to do this for a living. So you still have to work, but you get an experience. And when you go to these other countries, the hospitality is so great that it makes you say, I want to come back. And I want to be better. And when we had Waterford giving out Waterford Crystal at the Worlds, everybody wanted to win a piece of crystal.
I want a piece of crystal. Have you noticed over the years any issues between Onewall and Fourwall and two worlds colliding?
Onewall, there's more people playing Onewall. But then again, in New York, we have a big handball population. We have over 50,000 handball players, and we have 2,000 free courts.
Yeah.
So in New York, real estate is expensive. All right. So where we had four-wall courts and a lot of clubs that have four-wall courts, a lot of clubs are taking it down because they say, oh, you know what? You got 4 people using a court. We can put exercise rooms, for spinning. We can put basketball. We can have, 10 to 20, 30 people using that room or more. So, the handball court's been, it's not something that they're building, but it's, and any place that has them looks at it and says, oh, we can cut it down. That's why I'm trying to work with politicians to see about getting an indoor facility built.
Yeah.
So that we can have world-class competitions in New York and don't have to worry about the weather.
Yeah.
That's one of our challenges now.
What is the argument when people want to get rid of the courts? Because I know in other countries they've got the same problem with indoor facilities. They are turning into spinning rooms, all kinds of stuff. What do you think are the key points to say, no, don't get rid of this court because...
Well, first of all, anybody that's in those clubs need to be part of that club. So most handball players want to play. All right, I'm on the board of the YMCA also. All right, so being on the board of the YMCA helps me to make sure I maintain training programs within the YMCA. Most handball players don't become members of their boards or committees at their club, and that's why those clubs disappear and take down the courts, because when they have planning committees and meetings, nobody's there to say, oh yeah, keep a handball court. So they say, just wipe it away. The argument for keeping it is just that in the YMCA, it's a safe place for kids. We have a large population of young people that play handball. So you want to serve the whole community this is a way to help serve that community and keep those kids off the street that play street ball. Now they can come in and play a game and experience the rest of the club.
Yeah.
Private clubs is a little bit different because they cater to the adults and not necessarily caring about the young people and what they do. But facilities like the YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, or any organization that deals with young people, they love it when you give them a handball demonstration and they see the kids gravitate towards it. And they figure out, how can we do this? That's why Onewall is sort of like an easy fix, because they can use the side of a building, a wall in the gym. I've had schools, we've done clinics in the cafeteria. They'll move all the chairs and tables away, and you do it in the cafeteria.
Any wall, any ball. That's what we say. I want to take you back in time a bit before we then go to the future. Have you had any issues, or you or people you've known and in your journey, with things like racism or gang culture and things like that, and has the sport helped?
Well, always, because remember, I was traveling as a young black kid from Bed-Stuy, going to different countries and going to different parts of the United States. Even in the United States, first of all, you were a New Yorker, so that's already a mark against you. Now you're African American, that's another mark against you, and you're young, that's another mark against you. So when I was growing up, there was a lot more racism. Now, there's still racism, but it's a little bit different. And one of the things with sports, as long as you were good, then you were more welcomed. If you wasn't that good a player and you were different, they were like, what are you doing here? But you beat them and you were competitive, they're like, come on back. So sports is a unifier. And one thing about handball, you can be short, tall, fat, skinny, you can be male, female, and you can still excel in this sport. So racism still exists, but not as much in the handball world as it did in the past. And I think also going to different countries, it's a different ethnic divide. Like when I went to Ireland, me and my guys, we were on TV every day because they never had black handball players in Ireland at all. They have Africans there, but the Africans didn't play handball. So they saw us play and they were like, wait a minute, who are these guys? Then you make it to the finals, they're like, wait a minute. So, but you don't get that as much anymore. But you don't get young people of color playing the sport because there's no one really teaching them. A lot of the people that taught handball before, they were teachers, educators, but when they retired, like...
Yeah, hang on a sec. When they retired, I'll pick it up. So, teachers, educators.
Yeah. So, before you had teachers, educators that were teaching the sport, even officers in the military that were teaching the sport to young cadets. But when they retired or they moved on, no one took their place and replaced them. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to emphasize now with ICHA. That's why I stepped down as president, because if something was to happen to me, it should not stop. And that everybody that has a handball group or whatever should feel the same thing. Don't take total possession of it. Make sure that someone's there to carry on, and you welcome them, you train them, and whatever else to train on to carry on, because that's the only way the sport's going to continue.
Yeah.
So now when you go to different countries, though, they want to learn. The Europeans want to learn. They want to be better than the United States, which they will be at the rate they're going.
Absolutely.
In at least 5 years. I remember when 1993, we were like, okay, piece of cake.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden by 2001, getting pretty competitive. And now, after what I saw in Dublin just in 2022, I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. So Europeans are more dedicated and more organized, but I think because the culture is different, the United States is a capitalist society. Unless you have corporations that's going to help the sport, so we have merchandise to sell specific for handball, and they feel that they can fund it, and get us as customers, they're not really going to put the money in. Yeah. Where in Europe, it seems like, different towns and different cities, their parliaments fund the play, put money aside to help those players succeed. And that's what we don't have here in this country. For handball, unfortunately, we wear any shoe, we wear any shorts and shorts. And so people are like, oh, but they're going to wear it anyway. Why do we have to support them?
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that changes with some of the stuff that you're doing with your elite pro wall group, that the WPH is doing and the USHA is continuing doing, that people will have a better view about what the sport is and how it can benefit all people and especially young people. And I'm hoping for Inner City Handball that we continue to get our sponsors so we can promote our young people so they can be then those young top players that's in your circuit.
It's interesting what you say about being a capitalist society. We've had this conversation already, but I just want to raise it again. There seems to be a lot of people that want to reinvent the wheel rather than building on the backbone of what has come before and what is currently there. What would you say to those people?
Look at the organizations that have been around. Figure out you have great ideas. Come to those organizations with your ideas and be part of those organizations and try and make the change. The only way I made the change was being part of the USHA. Nobody at that time, I was the only black member on the USHA board, and it was hard to get me on that board. Okay? But everyone kept saying, my non-black counterparts said, stop complaining. If you want something to change, be part of the solution. Don't be part of the problem. Don't, get in there and convince them to do it a certain way. And that's what I was able to do to make sure that we were established and have lasted this long. Because, we do things similar, the same way as the other organizations. There's nothing new. But they had the idea, let's make it a little bit better. Let's make it a little bit more inclusive. And that's what's been keeping us going. And that's why I think everyone else should do. Be part of it. Like whether you're part of the YMCA, whether you're part of the New York AC. If they have if they have sponsors, why not be part of that organization? No one else is helping you out. So if they are doing it, don't keep bashing those groups. Help them.
Yeah. Interesting. Hear that? We're better together. You mentioned earlier you're doing family days.
Yeah.
And, a lot of handball we see, it's just the tournament.
Yeah.
But you say that there's a bit more that you layer on with the family days?
Yeah, with the family days, what we want to do is have, in some of the communities of Brooklyn, and we want to do it throughout the whole city next year, where, and the USHA had done those before. They used to have fun days. And, Dave Chapman used to be, and some of the other pros would have a tournament for one day, and they would teach kids how to play handball and have like a handball camp and stuff like that. So it's not a new idea. It's just that, how do you get the money for it? So what we do is that we, have gloves, eye guards, free for the kids. Teach them how to play the game if they never played it before. Just hand-eye coordination. Teach the ones that are a little bit more advanced the rules of the games, and that there's actually a United States Handball Association in this country, and there's an Inner City Handball Association in this country that gives you book scholarships of $1,000, $2,000, so that if you win a tournament or you help volunteer at tournaments, you can actually get money to go to college. It's not big money yet, but if we get some of the corporate sponsors involved, those $2,000 scholarships can end up being $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. And that's the goal.
Yeah.
Get the companies involved, let them see the value of what they're doing to these young people, making sure they finish high school, making sure they maintain their grades so they can go to college, make sure they become, be able to get a good job, and then they contribute back to society, pay it back forward.
So it's teaching them more than just handball skills.
That's right. It's teaching them to be a better citizen. For me, it's always been, you want them to be a better person. Because playing handball all the time, that's not going to do very much for you. But if handball helped you, why don't you help handball? That's what I did. Handball helped me as a kid. So I just couldn't think of anything else because I had great mentors, and they all was very helpful to me all my life, even giving business advice. I have a computer company, I have a retail trophy company. My mentors, the ones that are alive, still customers of mine. The kids that are in my group, they're customers of mine in all my businesses, or they refer me to other people. So it's all helped me in my network of growth.
Yeah.
So if I can help other young people, help them in their network too, so they can grow, they could do a lot more than I did.
Okay, and we come to the end. 2 questions, 2 short ones. What do you want to see for the future? Realistically, what do you want to see? I want
to see a New York indoor handball facility where it has 4-wall and 1-wall indoor facility that we can have world-class tournaments. And I would love if they built 3-wall courts somewhere in New York.
And when you say 3-wall, do you mean Eaton 5s?
Well, actually, without the buttress.
Okay.
I would like Eaton 5s without the buttress.
Cool. And finally, how would you describe the sport in one word?
incredible.
Cool. Paul Williams, thanks very much.
Welcome.
Might
Thank
ask you
Dan.
to show me a 4-wall court now as well.
No problem.
Okay, so I'm here now in the New York Athletic Club, and I'm just going to jump on a 4-wall court in case you haven't seen that. So check it out. New York Athletic Club, NYAC Handball, and Mr. Paul Williams. Paul, very briefly, this is a 4-wall court. People have mainly only seen 1 wall on the channel so far. Can you just explain this very quickly?
It's a 4-wall court. It's 40 by 20, so it's almost the size of a 1-wall court. The only thing is, you have a serving line. Like in 1 wall, this would probably be the short line that you have to serve over. In 4-wall, you got to serve over this back line. It makes it a little bit difficult to adjust your swing. All right, you can hit the front wall, then you hit the side wall, come over this line, you hit the side wall, and then the person can still hit it. Yes, I always look at 1-wall handball and 4-wall handball as chess and checkers. Because 1 wall is one-dimensional. 4-wall, you can use the side walls, you can use the ceiling, you can use the back wall, all in part of the game. The ball can only hit the floor once, though. But once it hits the floor once, you can use all the walls.
Yeah, and the ball is the small ball, like I did at the US Nationals, but you can also play with a big ball now.
Yeah, there's a big growing crowd that plays big ball on the 4-wall court, and it's pretty interesting. I'm not a big fan of it, but once you get into it, it's just like anything else. If you're a handball player, you're like, I want to try and master this game. But it's fun.
Cool. Well, we'll cover 4-wall a bit more detail another time, but here's a nice introduction from the hero himself. Thanks, Paul.
No, thank you, Dan.